Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm Pat Larsen, CEO of ZenLedger, and joining me is Kyle Thornton, Head of Customer Success for the Americas at Ledger. Kyle, could you give us a quick intro?
Yeah, my name's Kyle. I started at Ledger in like 2021, late 2021. But before that, I was just, I was getting into crypto. I was getting into crypto more, and then I realized, like, over time, I think all crypto users start to become aware of the need for security. And then if you really like open the lid on that and dig in, turns out Ledger becomes a pretty necessary product. So I was basically out there in the world shilling Ledger before I ever worked there, and one thing led to another, and then I ended up going inside the company. And ever since then, I've been working to build a team of customer success people that, in my own image, that go out and just evangelize crypto security, know what they're talking about. And honestly, you should try going to support.ledger.com and just chatting with us about whatever and see what, like, we're just trying to be the help desk of Web3. That's what we're aiming for.
That's really cool. We take customer success really seriously too at ZenLedger because crypto accounting and crypto taxes are so difficult and kludgy that you really can't get through it if you have any sort of complexity. I think 90% of our customers can use our software without any help, but the 10% who need our help, like, really need our help.
I'm in the 10% here. I mean, I think anybody who does the degen thing or has made really crazy trades or DeFi farming, it just gets really insane really quickly. Yeah.
So we're here today to talk about Ledger and how ZenLedger and Ledger work really well together, and some of the exciting things Ledger is doing in the near term. But we want to talk a little bit about Web3, security, wallets, self-custody. But as a quick little note, like, a lot of people ask me, how can I get into crypto? And Kyle really highlights it. You just got to be really interested, and self-educate and kind of reach out, solve problems, answer, and eventually someone's going to make a spot for you. Yeah.
And much like taxes, security is not optional, right? Like, you can't opt out of having to be secure in this space. If you have an account on a blockchain, you have to worry about security. And if you want to dig in on it, we totally could. It's the idea of just the fact that you have an account in a blockchain means that you have a secret in your life. It's a long number that's used to sign things, but for most of us, it shows up as the form of like 24 or 12 words that you wrote down. That is your secret key. That is your secret information. And if you ever lose that, or if you ever get it into the hands of an attacker, as far as the blockchain is concerned, they are you. They become you and sign things as if they are you. And so, like, Ledger's in the business of making sure that nobody will ever obtain that from you.
I think as an analogy, everyone knows that, basically, dollars are a bearer instrument, right? If you have it in your possession, is yours to spend, right? There's no name on it. You don't have to sign it. It's yours, right? And crypto's really the same way. If you control the asset, it is yours to move around or spend or exchange as you see fit.
Do you have like a little stack of 20s just off camera?
It's not a little stack, my friend.
It's a big stack. It's like up here, just off the side.
Just working hard over here.
You really should like reach over and grab a 20 off the top of something and just like, yes.
Like a crisp one, or a crisp $2 bill, because we just had Lunar New Year, so got some $2 bills. So I think we could talk about that a little bit, just from like real basics. Why do we call it a wallet? Why is it more like a password instead? And what is self-custody versus custodial?
This is the mind-bending thing. I think a lot of people who are not even new at the crypto space, they may have had their mental model could be wrong, and maybe we should set it straight. I actually hate the term wallet. I wish it was not called a hardware wallet, but the alternatives are even worse. Like, my preferred term is like, it's a ledger personal cryptographic signing device. It's like your signing device is what I would call it. It's more analogous to a magic pen that you use to sign things more than it is a wallet. If you're going to talk about pocketable items, that it's more like a pen than a wallet. And what I mean by that is that if you have a misconception, if you have this conception in your mind that crypto is somehow stored inside of this ledger device, it's not correct. The thing that's stored inside this ledger device is your key. It's the thing you use to do the signatures. And so when you buy a ledger, you open it, unpackage it, you throw your key into it, If you don't have a key, then it'll generate you one. That's like the choice of yours. And then once it's set up with your key inside of it, you bring this to the party when you come to sign a transaction. And so everything on the blockchain is just a transaction. I want to send Pat 1 Bitcoin or 100 Bitcoin. I want to mint this NFT. Everything you do on the blockchain is a transaction that you formulate what it's going to do, how much it's going to cost, all the parameters, and at the bottom you sign it. And that's where Ledger comes in. It's like, you need the private key to sign things. You can't let the private key touch the internet, can't touch a computer. This is the intermediary. Private key goes in here. This comes and signs things for you. So I get a lot of questions day to day that are like, okay, when somebody sends me ETH, at what point, like, when does the ETH go to the ledger? Like, do I have to sync it every day to make sure the ETH gets in here safely? And like, even worse, I've had people think that by moving crypto into this device, it somehow it locks in the price. Like, I put Bitcoin in here at $60,000. So like, I don't care what the market's doing. This Bitcoin's worth 60,000. Like, yeah, if you have an image of crypto going into this device, it's not correct. It's just your account information that's on that device that you use to sign things.
That's a new one, because that's not how any asset works. Unless you're counting, like, I put 5 pennies in, 5 pennies come out, but like the purchasing power of those 5 pennies would change while it's in there.
It's actually a bit of a meme at this point. You may see it on Reddit every now and then, where it's like, don't worry guys, I locked in my crypto at 50K. I've locked it into the ledger at some price. And I think 1 in 1,000 people actually think that's how it works. It's just funny.
That's fantastic. I think why that is probably centralized exchanges where you could turn fiat into crypto and crypto into fiat, mirrored online banking user experience. And so people felt, hey, this is a custodian, my crypto is there and it is safe, so it's being held somewhere, right? And so it was easy to think of your crypto as in an account registered to you, just like your dollars are in an account registered to you at a bank. And that analogy just stuck. Yeah.
And that's actually a very apt analogy. It's the phrase, not your keys, not your coins, right? Like it's a phrase at this point, but many people haven't unpacked it to know what it means. The act of using an exchange, if you log into Coinbase.com and Coinbase says you have 1 Bitcoin, in a way it is true, but it's that Coinbase has 1 Bitcoin in a Coinbase held account, and that you are provided this login interface to tell Coinbase what to do with that 1 Bitcoin. And what's happened over the last year is people have learned that you can log in and tell Coinbase, the exchange, what to do until you can't. the thought that will always be true may not always be true, depending on how reputable that exchange is. And so, unlike a bank, well, not quite unlike a bank.
Exactly like a bank. Exactly like a fractional bank.
Yeah, exactly like a bank. But there's another way in the blockchain world, which is you don't have to relinquish custody of your assets to the exchange. That's what these devices provide you. This is the ability for me to hold my own account. I don't ask anyone's permission. I don't ask Ledger's permission to sign things. This is a hardware device that just signs things. I bring it, sign it, whatever. Like that's the idea of self-custody. Is I'm not going through a login. I'm not going through an intermediary to send or receive anything. It's just happening. And so there's nothing that could be, pulled. The rug couldn't be pulled out from under my feet because that account number is mine. That's the power. I think a lot of people that are using exchanges right now, they don't know there's a better way until it's too late. Sometimes that login just stops working and you can't actually get back to that money you thought you had.
Yeah, every couple of years, a new batch of people who are very interested in self-custody are created in crypto. So,
yep, and that's the thing is like every new wave hears it. They hear it from the veterans. They're like, not your keys, not your coins, and they don't really unpack it. And they're like, you should really get off that exchange. Like, yeah, but it's nice. Like the exchange is really friendly. It's easy to swap. You're not dealing with that technical complexity because it's hidden through a nice web interface. They're dealing with technical complexity. And that's why that's what their value is they hide the technical complexity behind a really slick web UI. But there is a cost to that.
Yeah. So when the original story in crypto is Mt. Gox, and that was a custodian being hacked for Bitcoin. And through to today, within last year, you have Voyager, Celsius, Gemini, Earn, and multiple others where just tens of millions of people were affected by trusting a custodian and that custodian letting them down.
And I don't know if I'm in a good place to comment on that, really.
That's my role. That's it.
Yeah, I know. I will say that in the process, though, it has highlighted the importance of self-custody. And when you switch your eyes, you look from custodial, these monolithic websites you log into, over to the world of self-custody, and you look at your options. I like to think that Ledger is the top of the line. There's no better way in my mind to store your own keys than using Ledger products.
Yep.
Top of the line, self-custody.
So I think we've talked a little bit about this, and I think people don't really they're not set up to conceptualize what self-custody of financial assets looks like. 100 years ago, there was a bank and there was a safe, and it was called a safe because it was a big chunk of metal, and you would put stuff in it, and it would be safe in there. And that was custody of your dollars or your financial assets back then. And people's homes aren't built for self-custody now, and people's habits aren't built for self-custody anymore. But that's what crypto can be. If you're using a Ledger wallet, you can use self-custody, a combination of self-custody and custodial, like a Coinbase or a Gemini, when you need to move stuff around. So it's not exclusive, 100% one way or 100% the other. Most people use some kind of mix.
Yep. And it makes sense too, because if you haven't cracked open the hood on the technical complexity, there's Bitcoin and Ethereum, two of the major blockchains in the world. There's no way to swap Bitcoin to Ethereum in the real world. Like, you have assets on the Bitcoin blockchain, you have assets on the Ethereum blockchain. In order to, you basically have to find someone to be a counterparty to that trade. And you're like, well, I'll give you this ETH to your account, you give me that Bitcoin to my account. Like, it's just, the technical thing doesn't really allow that to occur. So if I want to swap Bitcoin for ETH, I would send it to an exchange. They are the confluence of those two blockchains, and they can just swap some bits around in the database, and then I can go back to my self-custody once I'm done. So I use exchanges all the time as part of my day-to-day, swapping, trading, moving. I just don't like to hold money on the exchange because of these reasons. Yep. It may not be there someday.
And you can use decentralized exchanges. So that's what a swap is. You can have custody. You can send crypto to a market maker online that never takes custody of your crypto, and then some smart contracts execute, and you get the trade you wanted to. But it's usually crypto to crypto trades.
It's crypto to crypto trades, all on the same blockchain typically. You're dealing with, but it's neat because there's no point at which that asset ever leaves your custody. There's no counterparty. There's no middleman. It's just you're going to a robotic machine that finds a way to swap one asset for another, all in one instant. You just send the transaction and it happens.
What's some common advice you'd give to someone who is generally has been on centralized exchanges and now wants to try out self-custody as well?
Okay, so self-custody has a lot of advantages. One of the disadvantages is the responsibility. You are relinquishing that responsibility, whether you do it or not, to another person, and suddenly you are taking it on. If you decide to self-custody your assets and you do it poorly, that's how you lose all your money. And so it's not something to be afraid of, but it's also not something to take lightly. And so I have there's two rules. You can be 100% safe, never have any hacks, problems, you'll never lose your money if you follow the two rules. There's a lot of complexity behind it, but the two rules are, number one, protect your seed phrase. It's your job to keep it safe. It's your job to hold on to it, and it's your job not to let an attacker get it, because that's what the scammer wants. They want your seed phrase so they can become you. Rule two: if I'm a scammer and I can't become you, the worst I can do to you is try to trick you into signing a transaction that helps me and hurts you. So rule two is understand what you're signing. That's it. Protect your seed phrase, understand what you're signing, and if you are aware of those two things at all times, you're good.
In terms of understand what you're signing, so things like when you hover a mouse over a link, look at what that link says, right? Like that's the very basic thing. And it might say coinbase.con instead of coinbase.com, or there might be misspellings, or it might say thecoinbase.com. So like you really, really, really have to be careful because all the phishing scams that you get into your email inbox, that's what it's going to look like. And there'll be a PDF attachment. There'll be some sort of hyperlink. and it'll tell you there's something important that you need to click on.
That's where this technical complexity comes in. I can make these two really slick rules, but when you look into it, understanding what you're signing is difficult, right? Because a lot of us can't read these transactions. They're not presented in a way that is very friendly. If you're not familiar with Ledger, so we solve these problems very elegantly. If you have a Ledger device, you set it up where your seed phrase is, the only time you see it is during setup. You write it down on paper. You will never see it again. You can never get this device to show it to you again. It is locked into a secure element forever. All you have left now is a single paper copy in front of you. You need to keep that safe, but you also need to never digitize it and put it anywhere. And if you do that job right, you make sure that never gets digitized, never gets put on your computer, never share it with anybody. Rule 1 is done. You've protected your seed phrase. You expect this ledger to do its job in protecting that secret as well, which it will. Rule 2 is the harder part. So the ledger piece is that no transaction can be signed without showing up on the little screen on the device. I'll make it turn on for a second. It's got a little screen, it's got little buttons, and there can be no signature occurring without this lighting up, asking you what to do, and then you clicking approve. And so at that moment of signature, that's the moment where you need to know what you're doing. So that's where these things come in. It's like, who gave me this transaction? Where did it come from? Is this website valid? Is that person on Twitter that's asking me to send them money? Is that actually who I think it is? Like, anytime that this lights up and asks approve ? And you click yes, like, make sure you know what you're doing before you click yes. And if you don't, that's where Ledger support comes in. You can always ask us, like, yo, what is this thing? Is this legit? And we'll try to be there.
So one thing you can do is if you get a message from Coinbase saying, there's an error with your account, or from Ledger or whatever, and Ledger won't even have your email. So actually, it depends on the Ledger product you use, right?
If you order from us, I'm sure that there's an email stored for a short amount of time. But
just go direct to the website. Just don't click on any links that come through your email. Just go to your bookmarks or go to the website. Use Google to go find where you need to log into. That would alleviate a lot of stuff. And then I think the other thing you can do is get a secure SIM card so you can't get SIM swapped.
Yeah, there's lots of ways to get other bad things can happen. But when it comes to your crypto, every scam will either do one of two things. It'll try to get your seed phrase, or it'll try to get you to sign something.
Yeah.
At the bottom of it all, through all the veneers of reasons and phishing, and like they're trying to get your guard down and all that. At the bottom of it all, they're either trying to get your seed phrase or trying to get your signature.
Yeah. And the reason we're harping on this is because both of us deal with a lot of people who have had assets lost or assets stolen in the past. And this particular talk is about security. We have other talks about various other things like, hey, is this a good investment idea? What's the cutting edge of DeFi or NFTs? But here we're just really harping on the security part because most people have no interest in talking to you about security, right? They have their own interests to talk about, not your security. I
know. And you were saying something a little bit ago about like how our houses are not built for self-custody. The thing that you're keeping safe is that piece of paper. Sometimes it gets translated over to steel plates, but it's a series of words. That's it. That's the only thing you're actually custodying. And you can buy a new ledger, you can buy a competitor's hardware wallet. You just load those 24 words in, and you're back in business. So that's the thing you're keeping safe. So I don't know.
Yeah, you can walk out of a country whose government has collapsed and into a country with a functioning government and banking system, and you can have all your assets again, right?
With all your assets in your head, memorize those words, go through the border, and somehow the assets all stayed with you. And the reason is because the assets are on the blockchain. They're on a global cloud system that you don't have to understand that it's out there in the cloud in the blockchain. And the only thing you're bringing with you is the knowledge you need to spend that money that's out there in the blockchain.
Yep. Let's see here. And so the other thing that people might not know is that Ledger isn't just for storing main tokens like Bitcoin, Ethereum. Since it's just a interface to blockchains, you can also use it for DeFi and NFTs, right?
You can do anything you can do with an ETH account. You can do it with an ETH account that happens to have its seed phrase on a Ledger device, right? Like it's, as far as the Ethereum network knows, it's just an account. It can do anything it wants. Same with all these other blockchains. Like we strive to have wide scale support And when we talk about support, what we're talking about is support for signing transactions. So any transaction that can be signed on Ethereum can be signed on Ethereum with a Ledger device. If you're comfortable with using MetaMask, I use MetaMask with Ledger all the time. MetaMask is my UI and Ledger is my signer, and they together become a really powerful pair. Coinbase Wallet, same thing. Like there's lots of ways to use this device to sign. Even if, we have a product called Ledger Live. That's like our in-house wallet software. It's a good account tracker. Ledger Live will never have you sign anything that it doesn't fully know how to decode and show you with human English words what it's doing. When you use MetaMask, you may notice that it may feed you things that are impossible to read, and you still have to sign them anyway. So that's why you might choose to use our product to help decode those messages. But either way, like you can use this ledger broadly to do anything you want. DeFi, NFTs, Cardano NFTs. Why not? People do that. We're all over the place, which is what makes customer support so fun for Ledger, is that we are dealing with people doing literally everything in the world of crypto, and we have to know about it.
Yeah. Our customers are always on the cutting edge and doing some aggressive and interesting new things. What do you think are some of the new interesting, kind of trends or ideas coming forward? If I'd asked you this question 2 or 3 years ago, you might have said like DeFi and NFTs, and that might still be the case now. But what are your thoughts? What are you seeing?
Well, this is not what you asked, but I've found some interesting trends in scam tactics.
Oh, okay.
Where back in the day, it was just give you a seed phrase. Then it became what if I looked like the Azuki website, but I had you, and when you clicked mint, it actually just sent your ETH to me. And then it was like, what if I set approval on Bored Ape? Would you notice that? And like the scams are getting more and more like sophisticated, doing things that seem innocuous, like set approval. You're like, oh yeah, approval. That sounds good. I don't see what the problem was with that. But turns out set approval means allow the other person to have this asset, to have it as equals to me in the world. And then some of the more high profile attacks lately have been, if you have ever sold something on OpenSea, you sort of have this approval set with them, which makes sense. You're like, you're my sort of escrow agent. I want you to be able to move this NFT out of my collection when it sells. You've forgotten that you had ever sold the collection before, and somebody tricks you into signing a sale to them. And so it's a particularly nefarious because you don't totally understand what it looks like. It doesn't even cost gas, because OpenSea sale orders don't cost gas. They're just free. And so if you had this thing in your mind where like a free transaction can't hurt me, well, suddenly, it can sort of. If you have approval set on OpenSea and somebody were to trick you into signing a $0 sale order, they could sell your NFTs out from under you for $0, which is in effect stealing it, but in a very, very sophisticated way. So it still boils down to understand what you're signing. It's just that rule becomes those signatures are getting more and more like nuanced with what you have to understand about the blockchain.
Cool. I think we've covered a lot here, and I think it's been really, really helpful for kind of people new to crypto all the way through to people who've been in crypto for years, but have just like always been hesitant to self-custody. I think another point is you don't have to 100% self-custody, or you don't have to keep it all on one wallet. You can silo things out, so you can never lose more than 10% in each bucket or something as well.
Absolutely. Like this is something that I think a lot of people, they breathe a sigh of relief when they hear that. I'm a MetaMask user. I know that's maybe not the highest point of security that exists in the ecosystem, but I don't want to move all my accounts over. I'm like, no, this is the perfect time to do it, because you don't want to move under duress. You don't want to move in the event that somebody is actively hacking you. You're like, oh no, I have to evacuate all my funds. No, do it now while things are calm and quiet, and like set up a ledger, understand how it works with MetaMask, understand how to move an asset from account A to account B, move it back from B to A, and go like, oh, okay, I get it. And then over the next, for me, it took about 10 months to slowly migrate from MetaMask to Ledger. So I became primarily MetaMask to primarily Ledger over the course of a long period of time. And it's just like another account in my portfolio. It's an account that I think of as a more secure account, because it is. And same with, if you want to move from custodial to self-custody, you don't have to just like move all your millions of Bitcoins or whatever over from one to another. Just do one and understand how it works and get familiar, and then you'll slowly move transaction. Over. Always small transactions first. Just send 1 or 2 Bitcoins first as a test transaction.
Yeah, just a tiny amount. Yeah. Just
send the rest later.
Just a house worth of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Well, cool. I think no, these are all like really good topics. thanks so much. As another caveat, like ZenLedger works really well with Ledger. We take working with them seriously because they're the best in the business. So as you're trying to get your accounting and taxes in order, we can read all the blockchains in a read-only fashion that you're doing your crypto transactions on through hardware wallets like Ledger.
That is what I love about ZenLedger, is that a lot of times when you're dealing with crypto stuff, you're worried about connecting your account. You're worried about signing something. You don't need to sign anything to do your taxes with ZenLedger. Pat, I could do your taxes, right? If I knew your ETH address, I would just throw your ETH address into the thing, do your taxes for you. There's nothing about that that's compromising your security at all.
Yep.
Yeah.
You would just have to de-anonymize that it's mine, unless I was like, hey, this is Pat Larsen's NFT collection. My ETH is at Pat Larsen, and then you could watch it come back to my MetaMask, right?
You could do a Twitter challenge where you just challenge your followers to all do your taxes for you and see who gets the best outcome. But yes, that's what I like about it is you can do your Ledger taxes without ever connecting your Ledger to anything. You just need your Ledger's address, and that's it.
Yeah. These are really cool and interesting things. Thanks so much. Is there anything else you wanted to cover or shout out here?
I don't think so. I don't know if I was prepped well by the marketing team to shout out the right stuff. No, I'm always happy to talk about crypto. Always happy to talk about security. I guess I'll do a shout out to support.ledger.com. We're there in live chat during the daytime, and then on the weekends and nights we're email only. So come by and chat with us during the day and ask us something hard and see how we do.
Those are the only questions we get. Same thing. Drop by our customer support, ask us hard questions about how to hook up ZenLedger and Ledger. We'll take care of you. Well, thanks so much, Kyle. I really appreciate it, and I think this was really helpful to a lot of people.
Yeah, thanks, Pat.
All right, cheers.